Good afternoon. It's a little strange to be introducing myself for myself, but my name is Benjamin Bugaile, and I'm the traditional director of music and worship here at Ingomar United Methodist Church, and I want to thank you so much off the bat for being here for the final of this year's recitals for our summer recital series. This is year 3. It's the last one of this year, but it's not the last for the Art Song Project, which I'll explain in a moment. Before I do, I want to give a special thanks to everybody who's up here. We've got Chase Upchurch, recent friend and colleague, as well as his wife Lauren, and Victoria. She's here to sing again. Thank you, Victoria, the person to whom I am married. And I also want to give a special thanks to Bonnie Diver and Ron Gracek, who are going to be reading the poetry that you are going to hear sung and spoken. So I'll explain a little bit about what this project is. As I said, I believe it was at the Pittsburgh Cello Quartet, this is a sadistic game of musical Sudoku I've been playing. So if you look in your program, you'll see 6 poems. These have all, I've written original music for each of these poems, 2 for each of the voice types up here. We have Victoria, she is a mezzo, Chase is a tenor, and Lauren is a soprano. The goal of the Art Song Project, and I'm going to try to not lose track of the trail here. The point of the Art Song Project is that there are 24 keys, signatures, in which music can be composed, major and minor, 12 major, 12 minor. The point of this project is that I am forcing myself to write in each key signature and to write for every voice type that exists, minus a couple, but we'll leave those out right now. So the goal is that there will be 6 pieces for mezzo, 6 for soprano, 6 for tenor, and 6 for bass baritone. Of those 6, 3 of those will be major and 3 of those will be minor. Of those 3 major and minor pieces, 1 will be fast, 1 will be slow, and 1 will be moderate or dynamically tempoed. So it's been a real pain in the neck. But it's helped me to grow, and I'm grateful to that end to have wonderful colleagues to work with on this music. You can learn, just before we get into the music, I want to thank not just all of our sponsors, well, actually I should say, I don't want to thank just the Meter Family and Family Wealth Management Group. If you look on the back, we have a couple of our grassroots sponsors who have helped to make today possible. That's the Laurel family of Technical Institutes and JMS Capital Group. They have also supported every congregant who's supported, everybody who's donated, and all of the sponsors. We could not have done this recital series without you. You can see who they are in the back, in the chancel. There's a banner that has everybody. Thank you to our generous sponsors, to the congregants. And if you'd like to continue to support this Art Song recital series as a whole, there's a basket in the narthex as well, where you picked up your program, or relatively close to where Pastor Greg was giving them out. I don't know where he is now. But you're not here to listen to me talk the entire time, so I'm going to open up the floor and explain that the poem will be read, the poem will be sung, and I will tell you what happened, because I don't want to tell you what to listen for, because then you'll just be listening for that thing. So I hope that you enjoy this program. I'd like to invite up to the microphone, as well as up to the music stand, I'd like to invite Lauren Upchurch and Bonnie Hall. Bonnie Diver.
Good afternoon. The first poem I'm reading is It's All I Have to Bring Today by Emily Dickinson. It's all I have to bring today, this and my heart beside. This and my heart and all the fields, and all the meadows wide. Be sure you count should I forget. Someone the sum could tell. This and my heart and all the bees, which in the clover dwell.
And all
Thank you, Lauren. So that's like the second time I've ever actually heard Lauren sing in person. The first time was last week. I knew she had a lovely voice because Chase up here, he shared with me a piece of music that he had written for her, and she sang it and he played, and I thought, that's a soprano voice I would love to have on the art song recital. Lo and behold, she's here right now. This piece of music, it's all I have to bring today. This setting is, for those of you music nerds out there, this is sort of a cross-section of Schubert meets John Coltrane. And you might be saying, what in the blazes is he talking about? I'm talking about Giant Steps, everybody. For the Giant Steps fans, anybody a fan? Franklin, I know you. So we've got Giant Steps. It's a piece by John Coltrane. It's a saxophone piece that whenever he gave the piece, he gave the jazz standard to his band, the drummer was like, sure, I can go on this. And everybody else was like, yeah, okay. And then he went to the pianist, and the pianist said, what? What am I looking at? Because what he does is he plays with giant steps. He plays with major thirds. So the key signatures he uses are B major, a major third up from that is E flat major, and a major third up from that is G major. So what I decided to do was to have this piece, because I didn't really want to write in B major, but I had to for the project. I decided to have it start in B major, but then by using the related notes and tones, now we're in E flat, and then we're in G. So it's not quite as jazzy as John Coltrane, but it takes us on a little bit of a harmonic adventure. This is one of the only positive, bright poems I could find by Emily Dickinson. And so I thought, yeah, we'll do this one. We'll set this one, because it's kind of pretty. And it's supposed to be about someone's wedding day. And I thought that was sweet. So we just went with that, and it's kind of a fast, flirtatious little piece of music. And so thank you again, Lauren, for singing this today. There's a little bit of imagery. We have the bees kind of flying around with the whole, like, That's supposed to be the bees flying through the meadow. That's up to you. Moving on, I'm going to invite our next singer and our next reader to their respective positions.
Good afternoon. This is Echo by Christina Rossetti. Come to me in the silence of the night. Come in the speaking silence of a dream. Come with soft, rounded cheeks and eyes as bright as sunlight on a stream. Come back in tears, O memory, hope, love of finished years. O dream, how sweet, too bittersweet, whose wakening should have been in paradise, where souls brimful of love abide and meet, where thirsting, longing eyes watch the slow door that opening, letting in, lets out no more. Yet come to me in dreams that I may live my very life again, though cold in death. Come back to me in dreams that I may give pulse for pulse, breath for breath. Speak low, lean low, as long ago, my love, how long ago?
Come to me in the silence of the night. Come in the waking silence of a dream. Come with soft, rounded cheeks and eyes as bright as sunlight on a stream. Come back in tears, oh memory, hope. dream, how sweet, too sweet, too bittersweet. Whose reckoning should have been in paradise, where souls brimful of love abide and meet, where thirsting, longing eyes watch the slow door, that opening, letting in, lets out no more. Yet come to me in dreams, that I may live my very life again, though cold in death. Come back to me in dreams, that I may give. Pulse for pulse, breath for breath, speak low, be low. As long ago, my love, how long ago?
So the first time that I ever encountered this particular poem was at All-State Choir 2010. I cannot find for the life of me who the arranger was of the setting that I'd heard, but it was a little esoteric and kind of creative as well. This piece, just to keep score for key signatures, this is an A minor, which, setting it for tenor, we have, which Chase did a lovely job. Just, that was lovely, thank you. Is a musical term for that was great. No, so this poem is very much the opposite of what we have heard with It's All I Have to Bring Today. It's about somebody who has passed away in a relationship, in a partnership. And this is a text, I said this last year, when I hear a poem, sung or otherwise, I think one of three things. Wow, that was so perfect, I will literally never try it because that setting was too good and it's defining. There are other times where I've heard it and I've gone, I don't like that very much. I'm going to try it myself. And then there are some, whenever I hear something, I say, that's really cool, but what if we did this? And this is one of those cases. It was a neat piece of music, but I wanted to try my own hand. So to give you a little bit of the imagery, because there's a lot of code, there's a lot of things that I try to hide in these pieces of music, to give you a little bit of a go, we have this individual who's obviously alone in the silence of the night. When we get into, the title is Echo. So come in the speaking silence of a dream, I wanted to have that kind of be dreamlike. And then we have the eyes that are bright. We're in E flat major, which is a tritone away from A, which doesn't sound very nice. But that's the point, is that we are taken from this dark place into this brighter place. We have sunlight on a stream. And then this is it rolling lightly. That is the stream. We have the tears. We have the kind of shimmering of the tears. We have the love of finished years. It's moving on. The dream's too sweet. I was telling, shout out right now before I forget. Maximilian Esmus, I know you're watching at home. Max is the individual. I write all of this out, like it's the 1920s with lead and paper, and I take Adobe DocuScan, and I take a picture of it, and I send it to Max, and I say, can you please put this into a program? And he sends it back in a way that people can actually read it. So I give thanks for him. But moving on. We have I was talking with him, the dream that's too sweet, too bittersweet. That's the pumping of the brakes. The wakening that should have been in paradise. That's the rising of the sun. That's we're supposed to have been awake. This is the walking in paradise. But the vocal line never touches a C sharp to show us that we never reach a major sonority as ourselves. The dream is what's major. The vocal line never touches that. The thirsting, longing eyes, that's parallel thirds. So in this dream state, we feel this person with us. And then we have that person coming to us in dreams that we might live our lives again. We have the pulse for pulse that's the heartbeat. And then we have the speaking low and the leaning low is the chromatic dissension. It's going down, it's working its way down until we get to the very end. As long ago, my love, how long ago? And it reaches that moment whenever the awakening should have been in paradise. So that's kind of the goal, is that we ultimately are reunited with that person who means so much to us. So that was my vision for this setting. Oh, that's very kind of you and very unexpected, but I really appreciate that. That's very kind. The next piece of music that's going to be sung, I don't usually explain a little bit about this piece. I don't usually explain about pieces before they're sung. But I have to just say one thing about it. This piece of music, The Lake Isle of Innisfree by William Butler Yeats, it's a poem. It's an Irish poem, which Bonnie will read, and it will be lovely. It's a poem about longing for a place that doesn't necessarily exist. It does exist. Innisfree is a real place in Ireland, but it's a place, it's more about a state of mind. So I just want you to listen. This is about the text, not about the music, so the text. The first portion is about having needs met. The second portion is about having emotional needs met. So one is like how I live, the other one is my heart, and then the last is that sense of longing to return. And this piece is dedicated to our dog, Blossom.
This is The Lake Isle of Innisfree by William Butler Yeats. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the crickets sing. There, midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the road or on the pavement's gray, I hear it in the deep heart's core.
Of
Thank you, Victoria. So the first time that I encountered this piece was actually through Victoria, but not this piece, this poem. It was set by an individual named Ben Moore, not the paints guy, a different kind of guy. He does paint, that's true. He actually was a painter, and then he got into writing music, so what am I doing? No, so the Lake Isle of Innisfree was hailed as a return to form by poets in Yeats's time. Apparently, the Irish were angry with the English, surprise, surprise, and what they had done to their form of poetry. So this was seen as like, this is very Irish and wonderful. And I can say these things also because I am like 60% Irish anyway, at least that's what Ancestry DNA says. Moving on. This piece of music, I wanted it to have a sense of simplicity about it, but also an amount of depth that one could look for within it. So I wanted to have the needs to be met in a simple sort of way, so that the chord structures underneath are delicate. And a small cabin, for example, it's just modest. It's all in there. The one thing I did have to, and you may laugh at this, it's okay to laugh at things after this sort of thing. I had to avoid, like the plague, copying Randy Newman's When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2. It almost showed up, but I fought it. I fought to make sure that didn't end up in there. When we get to, and I shall have some peace there, that is probably the most representative, at least for my relationship with Blossom, was that we have this constancy. For those of you who are paying attention, you probably heard the fact that this pedal point D was there for like 8, 9 straight measures, just as the piece crescendoed and kept moving, because that was what I experienced with her in our everyday lives, was in fact a great sense of peace, early mornings together, late nights together. She was just a wonderful dog. The Midnight's All a Glimmer, this is what I call my Joe Hisashi / Hayao Miyazaki era. For those of you who aren't familiar with Hayao Miyazaki's films, please go home and turn on HBO Max and type in literally anything by him. But he uses these sorts of structures. And when we land on this chord, I'm using every note in the scale because she was everything to me, of course. And then I use a 13th chord at this point, which was a first for me. A 13th chord is just a way of saying it's really crunchy and kind of jazzy. That's all it is. There's also one other thing. Blossom, I could tell her, Blossom smooches, and she would jump up and press her nose into your, up to your mouth. And I actually hid one in here, which is this little moment here. The line coming up is Blossom, the line leaning into her is me coming from the top. So that's what that is. That's your little, there's all kinds of code in this thing, but we'll move on from it for the time being. I'd like to invite the next reader and the next vocalist to help us with our next poem.
This is The Winds of May by James Joyce. Winds of May that dance on the sea, dancing a ring around in glee from furrow to furrow, while overhead the foam flies up to be garland in silvery arches spanning the air. Saw you my true love anywhere? Well a day, for the winds of May. Love is unhappy when love is away.
Winds of May that dance on the sea, dancing a ring around in glee from furrow
Thank you, Chase. Thank you. So I don't know which one is shorter, this one or It's All I Have to Bring Today. But those are the shorter pieces for this particular set of 6. This is an old one. This one is very old by comparison. I think it says it was born in 2016, which is, I'm not saying that's, okay, 2017 was when it was officially finished, but it was started in 2016. This one just kind of speaks for itself. I don't know. I just kind of try to put some images together. So like silvery arches spanning the air. What do those sound like? I don't know. But if I were to try to put them into music. That's the foam that has gone up in garlands, and it's descending. Yeah, this one just kind of rolls. I guess I also tried to impressionize, if that's a word. There's your made-up word for the day. The winds of May are actually in the right hand. And then also, again, not at the back half of that, but you understand. So yeah, this one's just kind of a little John Ireland-esque kind of art song. Chase was saying this would be really great to give to like a freshman like tenor who's like figuring out their voice, which would be great to do someday. So we're gonna work on publishing, which is another goal of this art song project, is to eventually get myself to that point of comfort, alas. Yes, thank you again. That's it for Chase. Thank you so much for your contributions. Yes, he did a lovely, lovely job. I also think the first time I heard Chase was last week. I think it was the first time I heard you sing. But just from listening to you speak, I was like, yep, that's the voice I want for this one. So I'm grateful to you. I invite Bonnie, I believe, up for him as well as Lauren.
This is Hymn by Edgar Allan Poe. At morn, at noon, at twilight dim, Maria, thou hast heard my hymn. In joy and woe, and good and ill, Mother of God, be with me still. When the hours flew brightly by, and not a cloud obscured the sky, my soul, lest it should truant be, thy grace did guide to thine and thee. Now in storms of fate o'ercast, darkly my present and my past, let my future radiant shine with sweet hopes of thee and thine.
This is a little bit of a strange poem, isn't it? Edgar Allan Poe wrote a lot of poetry, as we know. We're familiar with Annabel Lee and Nevermore and all of those poems. He wrote a lot of poems that go on for about 8 years. And so I wanted to find one that was not 8 years long and was instead like 3 systems. This is to check the box of E flat minor, which is a key signature that everybody loves to play in if you're a keyboardist. That's a joke. No one likes E flat minor at all. So I thought I would compromise with myself just a little bit, because one of the things that's fun about composing is creating rules and then trying to break them as much as you possibly can. So the thing that I was doing with this piece of music was that there are 4 voices in the accompaniment only at any time. So I tried to use sustain to fill and to bleed and to make some things work together, but there are only 4 voices at any moment to kind of emulate a choir in a church, because it's a hymn. So we have at any time it's this. I wanted it to have that going about it, like it would sound just as good on the organ. So that was a goal with this particular piece of music. For those of you, before I continue talking about some of the structure, for those of you wondering about what Poe's religious beliefs were, because some people think, well, wasn't he an atheist? He grew up in an extremely religious household, though plagued with other sorts of things in his life. Who isn't in their own way, shape, or form? He was, from what I have read, kind of a deist, pantheist. He believed in God, and he seemed to love God, but he also seemed to have questions, which is healthy, all things considered. But yes, this is kind of, I wanted to go with the dark angle of this. So we have it at morn, at noon, at twilight dim. Maria, thou hast heard my hymn. In joy and woe, in good and ill, Mother of God, be with me still. For those of you keeping liturgical score at home, we just had the Feast of the Assumption of Mary, so this kind of worked out to that end, didn't it? And for those of you who are not keeping score of their liturgical calendar, the Assumption of Mary is when God, after Jesus ascended, God looks at the Virgin Mary and goes, yeah, you're coming along too. That's layman's terms. So we've got the next section, When the Hours Flew Brightly By. I don't know why we went to F sharp minor. I'll ask the composer someday. I wanted it to sound kind of uncertain. Did anybody pick up on the quote of an actual hymn in here? There is, in fact, a hymn. And not a cloud obscured the sky. It's Lost to Sir Froy and All Creatures of Our God and King. I wanted to put a hymn in a hymn. It's like exhibit. Sorry. Moving on, we have the end of this piece. It kind of stays dark with a moment in G sharp minor. These are all very, very dark, gnarly kinds of sounds. Now when the storms of fate o'ercast darkly, I wanted it to have a moment of brightness before you thought, oh, no, we're going back to a minor place. No, the future is shining and it's above and before us. And that melody at the end, with sweet hopes of thee and thine, that's striving for that relationship with God. That's what I was trying to paint there, is that is what Poe is ultimately looking for. So yeah, that's him. I was not intending to set this to music, and then it just kind of bugged me to the point that I did. So before I invite the last reader and the last singer up, I never like to end talking, so I'm not going to do that. I will explain a little bit about cloud shadows, but as long as you promise to listen to it for the sake of the music and not for all of the little codes I'm about to tell you about. Which, by the way, for those of us who play video games, Nintendo Power no longer exists as a publication, so these are all the codes you're going to get, I guess, anymore. I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Franklin. So Cloud Shadows is by a lady, I was going to say a young lady, but she is no longer living, so I don't know why I was going to say that. Catherine Pyle is an American. She's an illustrator. I don't know. sue me, She's an American illustrator and author, and she wrote these fantastical sorts of stories, and she drew these really interesting cartoons as well. The first time that I had heard this poem set to anything, and this is in like the Joan Boydum books, for those who studied voice at school. Joan Boydum put out literally every art song that we ever had to sing ever, basically. And Franklin, you actually knew her, right? Yes, I do. That's amazing, yeah. But all that to say, there was a version that went like this. I wish I could ride on the shadows of clouds that drift across the hill. And I thought, that's nice, but what if this person was delusional and neurotic? What if this person was imagining literally riding on the shadows of clouds? What would that sound like? What would the accompaniment sound like? So staying in the Joe Hisashi era, we've got a little bit of a Howl's Moving Castle vibe with this one, for those of you keeping score at home for that. This was one of those ones where I heard the setting and said, great, but let's try something a little bit different. So you'll hear things like in the accompaniment, I'm trying to emulate clouds. So we have these clusters that are always moving. So there are two notes it's a 4-note cluster. There are always 2 notes moving. And you'll hear that at certain points. You will hear, it's kind of up to you. There are certain moments where you might hear the wind blowing in an aggressive way. You might see daisies swaying. I'll let you interpret this. And the last thing I'll say is that when I was talking with Victoria about this piece a little bit, part of the conversation, she said, you know what? I don't know if it's neurotic or delusional. She said, I think that this kind of is a fantastical sort of thing. To which I thought to myself, I didn't say delusional was necessarily a bad thing. I hope that you enjoy Cloud Shadows. Thank you so very much for being here again. Again, we've got a basket in the back if you'd like to give to the Recital series, to the music ministry of this church. And it's been so lovely to see so many lovely and familiar faces from so many different walks of life here. So thank you for being here from the bottom of my heart, because I never thought I'd be composing music literally ever. And friends have forced me into doing this, and I love them for it. So thank you for being on the journey with me.
And this is Cloud Shadows by Catherine Pyle. I wish I could ride on the shadows of clouds that drift across the hill, over the meadow, and out of sight. They sweep so smooth and still. Over the daisy field they passed, and not a daisy stirred. They moved like chariots, grand and slow, but never a sound was heard. I wish I could ride on the shadows of clouds, could ride till, the journey done, I'd find myself at the end of the world, where the earth and the sky are one.
I wish I could ride on the shadows of
Thank you all so much for being here and for subjecting yourselves to some new creations. Next year is the final year for the Art Song Recital project, but not for this series. So we hope to see you next year. Thank you.